Hey everyone, Clyde here, and today we are going to be discussing steel and steel ships. We're going to talk about how you can get it and what might be the best ship to buy with your steel. It's fairly often that someone pops into my Twitch stream or onto my YouTube comments and says, what's the best steel ship? Or even what's the best coal ship? What's the best research bureau ship? And it's impossible for me, of course, to divine through the magic of the internet and figure out what ship you would like best. I don't probably know you very well. We probably haven't spent a lot of time together. I don't know what kind of ships you like to play, and I don't know where your best skill sets lie. However, there are some ships that have characteristics that might be very appealing. We're going to go over steel and how to get it, and then afterwards we'll look at each of the steel ships currently available in World of Warships, and we'll talk about what are the salient characteristics of each. We'll talk about what are their strengths, what might be some of their weaknesses, and then hopefully you can take that information and decide what ship is going to be the best for you. So what's a steel ship, and for that matter, what is steel? Well, steel ships are special ships, which are, as near as makes no difference, premium ships that you can unlock by spending the in-game currency, steel, in the armory. Now, I talked a ton about the different currencies in World of Warships and how you can earn them in my video about the Research Bureau. If you haven't seen it, you might like it. A lot of people found that video helpful and interesting in not only understanding how the Research Bureau works, but also how the currencies, the economy of World of Warships works with things like credits, experience points, free XP, coal, and yes, steel. I'll put a link to that video in the description below, and maybe it'll show up here in the corner as well. Now, before we talk about how to earn steel, I want to talk about a concept that I think is helpful in understanding the different currencies in World of Warships. Now, I go into this in a lot more detail in the Research Bureau video that I was just talking about. However, I think it's worth covering again briefly. Steel is what I consider to be an expensive currency in WoWs. There are no signals, there's no flags, there are no camouflages, there are no things you can do to boost your steel earnings in each match like there are with credits and XP and free XP and commander XP and all of that. This is one of the reasons why I think that that's kind of an expensive currency. It's more expensive than coal, credits, and XP because those are currencies that you get in every single battle that you log into in World of Warships. When you log in and play any battle, you will earn those things, but in order to earn steel, you have to play specific game modes, complete specific missions, and in almost all cases, you have to win. Everybody gets coal, everybody gets experience points, everybody gets credits, but only winners get steel. And that's primarily because steel comes in competitive modes like ranked and clan battles. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Now, there is one way that you can boost your steel earnings, and that is the steel port. The steel port is a building that a clan can build, which grants its members a bonus to steel earnings. A fully upgraded steel port will boost your steel earnings by 10%, which means if you get 500 steel for completing some task, you'll get a bonus 50 steel on top of that. So it can basically get you to your next steel ship about 10% faster. That's one of the incentives to joining a clan, and it's pretty much the only way to boost your steel earnings. So if you're really interested in grinding more and more steel, get into a clan that has a fully upgraded steel port. Daily missions are pretty much the most accessible way for you to earn steel. But daily missions are just exactly what they sound like. It's a mission that resets every single day, and you can earn rewards by completing specific tasks. For example, there might be something that says something to the effect of earn 1200 base XP in a match where you win, and you would earn 20 steel. If you have a steel port, a fully upgraded steel port, you'd get an extra 2 steel for this. You'd get 22 steel. There's something like 5 different daily missions that you can do every day, and if you complete all of them, you'll get another 20 steel at the end of that. So again, another 22 steel if you have a fully upgraded steel port. This is basically nothing. With ships like the Shikishima costing 32,000 steel, 44 steel a day isn't going to get you there anytime soon. I actually think these daily missions are there so that players know that steel exists, and they'll be like, what's that? And then they'll go learn more about it, maybe by watching this YouTube video or exploring the game client and discovering that in the armory there are steel ships, and that 40 steel ain't going to get you anywhere. It's really kind of the first hits free kind of a thing.
Psst, hey kid, want to try some of this steel? I'll tell you what, this one's free right here. We'll give you 20 steel for nothing. And if you like it, Then I'll be like, here's a horrible mission. It's very difficult to do. And if you're very successful, maybe we'll give you one of them Shikishimas.
From time to time, there are special game events where you can also earn steel. Might be a one-off missions or something like the holiday Christmas boxes, the Santa's big gift containers, the Santa's mega gift containers, where for certain players who owned every single ship on the list, if you drew a ship when you were using one of those Christmas boxes, you would get steel. That was kind of a thing that affected like almost none of the player base. Obviously, there are whales who have all the boats, but most people didn't. So that's like not a really reliable way to get steel. Another example would be for the Marlborough or Marlborough dockyard, for example. The second to last stage, the one right before the ship, has a pot of 2,000 steel in it. So if you're working the dockyard, you're going to get some steel on your way to the Marlborough. Of course, if you have a steel port, you're going to get an extra 10%. So 2,000 steel becomes 2,200 steel for players in clans with that building fully upgraded. Now, a dockyard grind tends to be pretty epic. It's pretty much a big thing to do. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work if you don't buy the boosters at the beginning, which cost real money. And even if you do, or I should say, if you don't buy the boosters, even if you play all the missions and go crazy, you're gonna have to spend some doubloons to get the last few stages, and it differs from dockyard to dockyard. So this isn't an option that works for everyone. Because it does cost money, and I just want to be fully upfront and open about that. But for players who are going to work on the dockyards anyway, this is another place to get steel. These special events or missions aren't really a reliable way to get steel. The best ways to get steel are in ranked battles and clan battles, and that's what we're going to talk about next. One of the most readily available ways to earn steel is by playing ranked battles. Now, ranked battles are organized into seasons, and each season is made up of sprints, and every sprint is 1 to 3 weeks, and every player is in one of 3 leagues: a bronze league, silver league, or gold league. Now, this sounds kind of complicated, and frankly, it is, but it's also not. As you progress through the ranks within your league, every third victory or so, you'll get steel and other great rewards. Eventually, you'll rank out of, say, bronze, for example, and in the next sprint, you'll be able to start in silver. Now, when you get to silver, the rewards are better than they were in bronze, and of course, gold is better than in silver. In bronze, you'll earn a total of about 600 steel. In silver, you can earn 800 steel, and in gold, 1,000 steel. Now, not every player is going to have the time, interest, or even skill, honestly, to go and rank out of gold every season. For those of you guys who are doing that, that's fantastic. Congratulations, you're getting the most possible steel out of the ranked battles system, if you will. But for the rest of us, for us average players, maybe we don't have enough time in the weekends or the weeknights to do this. You can just play through the bronze level and get 600 steel every sprint during the season, and that's a great way to keep your steel pot growing steadily over time. And don't forget, if you've got your clan battles, or not your clan battles, your clan building, your steel port fully upgraded, you'll get an extra 10% steel as well. So that 600 steel you'd earn in bronze becomes 660, the 800 from silver becomes 880, and the 1,000 from gold becomes 1,100. Not a bad deal, if you ask me. You can earn steel in clan battles as well, and just like when you're playing ranked battles, in order to bring that steel home, you have to win. Compared to ranked battles, where you simply log in, mash the big orange battle button at the top, and play until you get a few wins, clan battles are complicated. First, you need 7 friends that play World of Warships, who say they're going to be able to show up at a predetermined time in order to engage in competitive play. And then they have to actually show up at that predetermined time and be ready to play. And they have to have tier-appropriate ships. If they don't, maybe it's a tier 10 season, Wargaming might be kind enough to offer them a rental as long as they have at least a tier 8 ship, but honestly, you don't want rentals on your team. And after all of this has happened, you have to hit the battle button, and you and your 7 friends have to be better than the other 7 people on the other side so that you can win. Nobody gets steel if you don't win. This level of effort makes ranked battles very, very appealing, and it's one of the reasons why ranked is one of the most popular modes in the game. The rewards are really good, and you don't have all of the rigmarole of trying to organize a clan battle session with 7 human beings who have busy life schedules of their own. Just like in ranked, in clans you'll earn steel every time you get 3 wins. In each of Squall, Gale, and Storm leagues, you can earn 2,200 steel. In Typhoon, you can earn 2,800 steel, and then it dips back down at the highest tier, Hurricane League, to 1,600 steel. The top clans, of course, will play through, they will dominate, and they will earn all of this steel. They'll get 12,000 steel in a season of clan battles. With a fully upgraded steel port, of course, 12,000 steel is going to earn you an extra 1,200 steel. That's 10% of 12,000 for a total of 13,200 steel. Now, what about those of us who aren't in a Hurricane League clan? I'm a fairly average player, and we play in what I think is a fairly average clan, and we tend to earn somewhere between 3,000 and like 4,500 steel in a season of clan battles. And this is us just playing 1 4-hour session per week. Obviously, again, your mileage is totally going to vary based on how active your clan is. If you guys play 3 times a week, and if you're pretty good, you're going to earn a lot more steel than me and my clan do. And if you play less than us and you struggle to get those wins, you're going to have less steel than we earn. But it is a way that you can earn a decent chunk of steel across a season of clan battles. There is one more way that clans can earn steel in the clan battle season, and that is for any clan that achieves Typhoon League Group 2 or higher is going to get some steel that goes into what's called a clan treasury. Basically, anybody who's reaching the upper portions of Typhoon or into the Hurricane League get a certain amount of steel that goes into the clan treasury, and the clan leaders basically can take that pot of steel and divide it how they see fit amongst players in the clan. There's one other thing too, which is if you rank globally in the top 50 clans in the world, there's additional steel that goes into your clan treasury as well. Again, to be divided up by clan leaders however they see fit. Obviously, that depends on what your clan's going to do there. My clan doesn't get into the steel territory. We just get coal, and we just divide that evenly amongst players who play in clan battles that season. Everybody else is going to have their own way of dealing with those resources, and I'm sure there's some clan leaders who just say, this is mine for organizing stuff. None of my business. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that. I'll probably cut that out. Now, one last thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, and this is something we've talked about on stream a bunch, and I'm sure it's come up in a YouTube video or two, is that when you go in here and you start taking a look at steel ships that are available in the game, there's this little coupons button up here. You're going to want to click on that and understand how this coupon up here works. This is the resources Ships for Resources coupon, and it basically takes 25% off any steel or coal ship that you're going to buy. In my frugal mind, there is no reason why you should ever buy a steel ship without the Ships for Resources coupon ready to go. You get a new one of these coupons every 6 months or so, and if you hover over the duration here, it tells you we're going to receive our next coupon on June 12th of 2022. I just got one here in December, and I used it to purchase the Ragnar, which is this beautiful machine right here, and I wouldn't have had it any other way. I had enough steel. In fact, take a look at my steel coffers in here. I have 20,773 steel, as I make this video, and I had that steel pretty much in December, but I didn't want to waste excess steel when I was buying the Ragnar because I knew that coupon was coming up, so I waited about a month to buy the Ragnar, which I'm glad I did because it saved me, I don't know, 5,000 steel or so, approximately, which is so slow to earn that I'm really very close to getting my next steel ship, which could be here in June when that coupon resets. Now, you can use this coupon for coal ships as well, and there is nothing wrong with that if you know that you're not going to be spending it on coal and then later you're going to be weak and buy a steel ship full price. Just make sure you remember that coupon exists and you go and use it. So what can you spend your steel on? Well, steel ships. This is really what we do with steel. It's kind of the only thing you can do with steel. Now, I've jumped over to my EU account, and that's because on my EU account, I can see all of these ships up here in the not yet purchased pile, and I just thought it looked a little bit nicer. What doesn't look as nice over here on my EU account is this. I only have 225 steel. That's why all of these ships are unpurchased. And like I said earlier, this is just a teaser to make me go, what's steel? Let's look in here and be like, oh, look at these cool things we can buy. For this video, we are going to take a look at each of the ships that are in here. Now, I own 3 of these ships on my North American account, and I really like all 3 ships that I purchased. I don't own some of these boats, so I'm not the expert on all of them, but I can give you a little bit of a description of each one. on and talk about some of their key points. And then, of course, again, as I always recommend, you should go and do additional research and get more than one opinion on these things. Primarily what we're going to do here, guys, is try to lay out the critical characteristics of each of these ships so that you can know about them. I'll speak a little bit more directly about Stalingrad, Ragnar, and Plymouth because I own those 3 ships. We'll definitely talk about all of them. We're going to start with the FDR, which is the only steel aircraft carrier that is on the list. First of all, this is an insane ship that launches like 1 billion aircraft. They're very slow, and they come in large squadrons that are kind of overwhelming when they're being dropped on. There was a lot of talk about this ship being removed from the game as soon as it came out. Just because it seemed very, very powerful. Although I will say that I'm still not excited to see an FDR when I am in a destroyer or honestly any other class of ship or type of ship. The FDR is not nearly as prevalent as it was when it first came out. I do still think it's a pretty powerful ship. I know folks who are big fans of it still, and I think that is probably... is probably still a worthwhile goal for a CV fan. Of course, the FDR is attractive. She's got really big looking airplanes. They're not very fast, like I said, but they do seem to get the job done. Taking a quick look at the aircraft, we have, let's see, what does this say here? 127 millimeter HVAR rockets. We have torpedo bombers. These are the ones that I feel like I get attacked with the most from this air platform. And it does have some bombers here as well. The maximum speed on the bombers is 154 knots. That's the boosted speed. Same for the torpedo bombers, and it's 164 knots for the attack aircraft. We know that for example, the Immelmann, the attack aircraft can get up over 200. I think it's like 220 knots. So when we're talking about speed differential, it's like a 60 knot difference between this and the Immelmann's aircraft, for example. When it comes to artillery, this thing is not really a secondary monster. The secondary range is only 5 kilometers. So, obviously you'll be able to buff that if you want, but you're not going to. You're going to build this thing for its airplanes. AA defense, like most aircraft carriers, is quite stout. We're looking at a 6 kilometer range. It's going to be tough to cut through the flat cloud produced by this aircraft if you're going to strike it with airplanes of your own. Maneuverability is less interesting on a CV. Concealment, 15.9 by sea. Obviously throwing a captain on there and throwing a concealment module would bring you down quite a bit, but I don't know that you're going to go with concealment for the modules if there's something that's better that's going to boost your aircraft capability. With CVs, really, you want to boost that strike capability more than anything else, and then just keep yourself at range, right? But that's the FDR. Again, just like in the Cole video, we're going to do kind of a brief summary of each one of these ships, and we'll just kind of talk about what their salient capabilities are, and we'll move on. So FDR, Tier 10 steel aircraft carrier. And speaking of which, Tier 10 is worth mentioning. You can see if I get my head out of the way that this is a 24,750 steel cost when you're purchasing it, and it's 33,000 steel without the coupon. So you're saving an immense, 7,000 steel almost. I'm going to move me over here, so I'm just kind of less in the way of some of the critical stuff that we need here. Okay, let's go back, and we will next take a look at Shikishima. Shikishima is a Japanese battleship. It's essentially a Yamato, but instead of 460 millimeter guns, which are already too big, this thing has 510s. It is an absolute monster and has this really cool green and black camo. Let's take a look at it in port. If you know the Yamato, you can look at this boat and see the similarities, right? Very similar gun layout, two turrets up front, 1 turret out back. But unlike the Yamato, which is 3 barrels per turret, with the Shikishima, you only get 2. This ship has some of the best sounding guns in the game. Maybe you don't have a Shiki, that's fine. You want to pull up next to one and just ask the player to let you know when they're about to fire them, because they sound so good. They are really, really cool sounding, and it is a really cool looking ship. Just like the Yamato, Shikishima is going to suffer from being citadeled right here. We call it the cheek. I'm sure there are other nicknames for it, but there's a sweet spot right here where basically if you hit right under these guns or even a little bit in front of them, you will get a citadel on the Yamato and the Shikishima without much effort. So it does have a big, big weakness, and you're going to want to make sure that you protect that cheek cheek so that it doesn't get slapped by even heavy cruisers that are up close or battleships from across the map. It is a very, very big and very well-known weakness on Yamato and also, of course, on Shikishima. Really cool looking aircraft launchers on the back. I think that's pretty neat. Folded wings on these little seaplanes. Pretty cool. Let's take a look at the artillery real quick. 3x2 510 millimeter guns. We kind of talked about that already. Muzzle velocity of these things is 765 meters per second. Not the fastest shells in the game. And we'll take a look at, I think there's another battleship that we'll be able to take a look at, the Bourgogne. And remember that number, 765. We'll compare that with the Bourgogne. Big fire chance of 40%. Of course, it's 40%. They're huge, huge shells. The HE max damage is 8,100 with the Citadel, the AP max damage of 19,400 per shell. Just an absurd number. Now, I think with these 510s, you are going to see more overpens on lighter armored targets. And that's because the 510s are just going to rip right through. So you're going to want to make sure that you're targeting targets that can take the hit and then have the shell detonate inside the ship. Shooting a Plymouth, which we're going to look at here in a moment, a very lightly armored British cruiser, you're going to punch right through. You're going to be very likely to get overpens with these monster guns on the Shikishima. AA is a little bit better than what you're seeing on Yamato as well. Yamato's AA, I want to say is like in the 40s or 50s. It's probably better than that, but 87 here, this rating here is quite good for a Japanese battleship, honestly. So you're seeing a little bit of a boosted AA defense as well. The concealment, 18 kilometers base. You'll be able to improve that slightly with a captain and with an upgrade module if you would like. However, it might be worth looking at some other builds there. And I'm not giving you a Shiki build here. I'm gonna encourage you to go do your own research there because I don't have a Shiki build to share with you. Okay, let's bounce out real quick. We'll talk about the finances here. For steel, you need 24,000 steel with a coupon or 32,000 without. That's an 8,000 steel difference. I'm telling you, make sure you use that coupon. Looks like you can swap out the spotting plane for a fighter. I would recommend not doing that. Spotter is just a more valuable resource than fighter. It just is. So don't use the fighter. Bourgogne, there were two ships that it feels like just about everybody bought when the coupon renewed in December. It was Bourgogne and Ragnar. And I think Bourgogne is a cool ship. First of all, it has a helipad on the back because why wouldn't it? It's very late war, I guess. And it's got these big 4-barrel turrets like we expect from the French battleships. 30,000 steel natural cost with a coupon, 22.5, saving you 7,500 steel if you've got a coupon to use. Taking a look at this thing, it looks very, very much like we would expect from a French battleship. 2 4-barrel turrets up front and 1 more 4-barrel turret out back. Again, it has a helipad, which looks kind of like a cookie sheet, which is kind of funny. But a cool camouflage on this thing. I think it looks really great. Looking at a total of 74,000 hit points. It's a little bit lightweight in terms of hit points for a battleship, but that's okay. These French battleships are maneuverable, and they're intended to kind of avoid damage rather than just shrug it off when it happens. Taking a look at the main battery, 380 millimeter guns, much smaller than the shells we saw on the Shikishima a second ago, but 830 meters per second. Was it 765, 745? I think 765 on Shiki. So much faster shells, which are going to be easier to hit with at similar ranges. As we look at the max damage, of course, is much smaller than the 510s. 5,400 instead of something in the 8,000 range, and 11,900 for a Citadel, for an AP hit, instead of 19,000 and change. But slinging 12 of these 380s is going to be a fun thing to do. And that 36% fire chance is going to let you light fires should you choose to go that direction. Concealment isn't much better than Shiki, 16.7 kilometers. AA defense rated at 87, starting at about 6 kilometers out with 8 shell explosions. Pretty decent AA. You should be able to keep at least some of the airplanes off of you. Now, if we take a look It does have some fun French tools on here. Sure, it's got DCP and a hull repair like just about every other battleship, but it also has the French main battery reload booster and a speed boost, which is a pretty nice pairing if I do say so myself. I think Bourgogne would be a cool battleship to add to anybody's port, and I think it's not a battleship for people who want to go out and hulk out and like just tank damage all the time. However, I do think it's a solid choice for people who want to add more of that French flavor to their ports. And again, it's you know, it's just cool looking. What a cool looking ship. Okay, Austin. Let me tell you, the Austin's not for me. I do not much care for this type of ship. Even though I know I'm kind of looking forward to the Pan-Asian cruisers, they're going to be kind of like this too. The Austin, of course, has this horrible, horrible wonderfulness to it where it's basically a glorified Atlanta. It has but except that it runs sap shells instead of HEs, which is incredible. So let's take a look at what it's got here in its bag of tricks. It's got a damage control party, a defensive AA fire module, and a main battery reload booster. The main battery reload booster on the Austin, at least at time of launch, and I think this is still true, is unlimited. You can do that as many times as the cooldown is done and your ship is alive. So there's no like, I can only do this 3 times in a battle. Oh no, we just got a follower. Hey, welcome to the channel, Mr. Opt-Out. I'm glad to have you here. We're just going to keep that in there. The reload booster you can just do whenever you want to do it, as long as it's reloaded and you're still alive, which is great. It does have a hull repair, which is going to be good. This is a light cruiser. It's going to take some damage if you get caught out or in a position you don't want to be in. And it has hydroacoustic search. No radar on the Austin, but frankly, between reload booster with sap, hull repair, and acoustics, you ought to be able to get a lot of work done. It is 21,750 steel after coupon and 29,000 without. Again, over 7,000 in savings, 7,250 steel savings. I might have said coal earlier, I meant steel. Let's go take a look at it in port. It looks a lot like a U.S. cruiser, which of course should not surprise us one iota. These turrets they're kind of different looking. They don't look like anything I've seen on most other ships. And like Atlanta, they are arranged in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arrangements right there. It is 12 6x2, 127 millimeter guns. These guys fire off high explosive shells and sap. I thought it was sap and AP, but it's high explosive and sap. So you can start fires at 9% per hit impact, or you can use sap, which is going to give you 36 millimeters of pen. 36 millimeters of pen is a good number. It's above 32. It's not going to get through the 50 millimeter decks and things that you see on things like Petropavlovsk or Stalingrad or what have you. But it will get through a lot of cruiser decks, and some of the battleships, the French battleships in particular, have decks that are like 32 millimeters, I think. So you're going to want to take a look at the armor profiles. This is a ship where you're going to need to know about your targets. You're going to need to know about 8s, 9s, 10s, and which ships you're going to be able to pen with which armament types. The HEs are only going to pen 21 millimeters, so that's going to be a concern. And then 808 meters per second is not a very fast shell, just like we expect with other American light cruisers, high arcing shells. They're going to be able to fly over islands and things, but they're not going to be easy to hit with at the most extreme ranges. As configured right now, this ship has a 15-kilometer range, but it doesn't have a captain, doesn't have a build of any kind on it. So in terms of, you know, upgrade modules, things like that. So you're going to be able to upgrade and expand that build a little bit. Ship looks pretty good though. I mean, again, it's a kind of a typical US camo. It's not fantastic or anything. Again, not a ship that I'm going to be adding to my port because I don't care for this playstyle and it's not good to me either. But we're going to go with it, and I know that there are going to be people out there who have a good time with this ship. I do have a couple of guys in the clan who bought it. I'll tell you, one guy hates it, the other guy really likes it. Your mileage may vary. Do you like Atlanta? Do you like that playstyle? If that is a thing you're into, this could be an interesting ship to add to your port. I will tell you, the guy who likes the Atlanta the most hates this ship. So your mileage may vary, as I said earlier. Stalingrad is one of the steel ships that was a lot of people's first steel ship. This ship has been in the game for a very long time, and it was basically here for the launch of the concept of steel as a currency. This was my first steel ship, and like I said, I think a lot of people's first steel ship. You might look at the Stalingrad and say, I already have a Petro, why would I want a Stalingrad? Well, Petro and Stalingrad are very similar ships, but they're not the same. Stalingrad has much larger guns, 305mm guns compared to Petro's 220s. Now, you can get a lot of work done with a 220mm gun, and you're going to be able to shoot a lot more often. I think it's like a 13-second reload or something like that on Petropavlovsk, whereas it can get down to 17, 18 seconds on Stalingrad if you build for it. So you're going to be able to do better work with HE and things, but you're not going to do HE work. You're going to work primarily with your AP whenever you can in Petro. And the same is true in Stalingrad. With Stalingrad, you get another 85mm of shell, which is just going to hit harder. It's going to hit better. Petro, of course, has slightly better armor, or so legend has told us, and I think that's probably true. Whereas Stalingrad is still very, very stout. Both of them share the same deck, which is 25mm fore and aft, with a 50mm deck mid. Stalingrad suffers from a 16mm superstructure. In fact, let's go look at it, which is relatively large and can be burned pretty well. So if we pull up the armor layout here, we've got 25mm fore, 50mm central deck, and 25mm out back with a 16mm superstructure right there. Again, a very tough ship despite all of that. However, it is a little bit burnable. Now, we were just talking about the Austin and how it has 21mm pen on its HE and 26mm pen, or I'm sorry, 36mm pen on its sap shells. If we take a look at this deck, you're going to be able to get that 36mm pen through the foredeck and the aft deck, but not here in the middle. Because of the large superstructure, you might still get a lot of damage hitting the superstructure with its 16mm plating with the sap shells on the Austin. However, for an Austin player to know what Stalingrad looks like here in terms of armor is going to be really valuable if you're really trying to maximize that damage. Now, of course, the Austin player could switch and fire HE. Even if they get shatters on the deck here, there is still a chance of starting a fire. And with a 9% fire chance and running their reload booster, they could do a great job punching a bunch of shells that aren't going to impact, but are going to start fires on the deck of the Stalingrad. So that's the kind of thing I was talking about earlier with Austin. It's just kind of knowing your targets. But this part of the video is about the Stalingrad, so we will turn that off. Taking a look at the artillery, we've got these 305mm guns with an incredible initial shell velocity of 950 meters per second. It makes it very easy to hit ships both at range and up close. And when you're up close, those shells basically are just laser beams. They're rail guns that can slam right into the side of heavier targets, which is going to help you get citadels. I can't tell you the number of times I've had the good fortune of being there when a Yamato sails out in front of me perpendicularly to my Stalingrad, and I just drive 6 gigantic 305mm shells right into the cheek there and give it, 2 to 3 citadels, which is amazing. The damage on this thing is 4,500 for the HE, that's the max, with a 33% fire chance, and 9,200 for the AP shells. That's almost as much as we saw with the Bourgogne back there, but this thing can reload in 21 seconds base, but I know you can improve that a little bit with upgrade modules and things. I think mine's around 17, 18 seconds. And so, like, if I can do 9,200 damage max every 18 seconds, let's say, compared to Bourgogne doing it in a much more standard battleship reload, yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, Bourgogne has the speed booster, or reload booster, which kind of changes the equation there, but that's not an always-on kind of thing. Something to think about, right? When you think of these super heavy cruisers or those lighter battleships with the 380s. Pretty interesting, these two ships. Secondary armament isn't really why you buy the Stalingrad. She's not a secondary ship. Don't try to build for that. You'd be better off buffing and boosting your main battery armament and things like that, and your survivability. Airstrike, sure, all ships have that now. The AA is pretty good. Unlike a lot of ships at tier 10, it's not 5.8 or 6 kilometer range. It's 6.6, which is more than most ships. You're going to find that 6.6 is a pretty rare number. In fact, I can't think of another ship right now that has that range, but maybe somebody in the comments can let me know below. Good AA numbers, basically. The shell explosions, you get 8 of those with a 90% hit probability. Those are pretty good flak puffs that we can throw out in this thing. Of course, you're still going to get hit by airplanes because you will. That's just the way the game's working these days. But if you want to try to SWAT a few planes, the Stalingrad's not a bad platform to do it in. Concealment, she's not sneaky. 18.1 kilometers, almost the same as Shikishima. In fact, I think slightly worse. So that is the Stalingrad in a nutshell. Big tanky boy with awesome main battery guns. Now, Stalingrad is getting a little bit long in the tooth, and some of you will watch this and say, nah, Petro's good enough for me. And honestly, it probably is. I have slowed down and not raced to get Petro because I have Stalingrad, although one of these days I'll get Petro, and then I'll get a little more comfortable understanding the differences between the two. And I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts on Stalingrad versus Petro down below. I think that's probably a debate that has fans on both sides. Next, we'll talk about Ragnar. Ragnar is a destroyer that came out and became very popular in our most recent King of the Sea tournament, and that got a lot of people thinking about it. When the coupons renewed in December, just like we talked about Bourgogne being very popular, Ragnar was the other ship that I saw tons of people buying. It costs 27,000 steel. I personally used my 25% coupon on it and got it for 20,250 steel, a savings of almost 7,000 steel, which again, don't not use coupons. You got to use them, dudes. Dudes and dudettes. You're going to be glad that you saved that steel because it is just so slow to get. Let's take a look at this baby in port. The Ragnar is a wonderful ship. It's really cool looking. One of the challenges it has is it's very different than the Holland. So if you have a high point captain on your Holland, the captain build for Ragnar and for Holland is not similar enough that you could share that captain without losing something for both platforms. That said, I think if you have a Småland, that captain might be a little bit more similar to what you've got on the Ragnar, but not exactly, again, because Ragnar has no torpedoes, and so any points that you invest in torpedo skills make no sense for the Ragnar, and a lot of the stuff that you invest in guns make a lot less sense for Holland, for example. If we take a look at the armor layout, I don't normally bring this up on destroyers. However, there's a neat feature here, which is this 25mm side plating, which means that ships that only have 127mm guns and don't bring IFHE are going to be unable to pen this side plating. So other destroyers shooting at your Ragnar will shatter shells on the side of your ship. Those destroyers need to know to switch to armor-piercing rounds, at which point they will get through this armor and will do some severe damage to your Ragnar. Of course, if they hit up top here, 13mm plate on top of the ship here in the superstructure is going to be pennable by pretty much any shell in the game, but that 25mm strip, similar to what Elbing has on it, requires AP from most enemy destroyers. The other cool trick that Ragnar brings to the table is the artillery pieces. These are 152mm guns that have a base reload time of 3.2 seconds. Now in my configuration, I got them down to under 3 seconds. I think mine are 2.7 or 2.8, something like that. And they rotate really fast, 7.2 seconds to rotate 180 degrees. The range on my build is somewhere out in the mid 14s. Or maybe even low 15s. So you can get plenty of range, and the muzzle velocity on these shells is 900 meters per second. The shells are very accurate with very, very limited dispersion. Look at that, 61 meters at 13 kilometers, which is a very small number. But that initial velocity also means that it's easy to hit the targets that you're shooting at. When you miss in the Ragnar, it tends to be your own fault. And if you guys have watched me play it, you know that I miss plenty of times. But the good thing is that reload comes back so fast that you get to put more shells downrange. Ragnar is great at pushing destroyers out of caps that think they can hide in their smoke because it comes with radar. If you reduce your make your concealment as good as possible, it's 7.5 kilometers is your detectability range, and your radar is also 7.5 kilometers. So just like Z52, where if you get spotted but you can't see the enemy, you hit your acoustics, you do the same thing with Ragnar with radar. As soon as you get spotted, you look around and go, I don't see that ship. You can hit your radar, pops that guy right up on your screen, and with your incredible 152mm guns that reload 2 or 3 times faster than the same guns would on a cruiser, you can cut that guy to ribbons and escape. The lack of acoustics makes it kind of scary to be up that close to destroyers, but usually you're chasing them off and they're not going to get a good shot at you. They're just trying to survive at that point. I find the Ragnar to be a lot of fun to play. I did find with my clan, at least, it was a little challenging to use it in clan battles because we were trying to contest caps and I really missed torpedoes. But I think some clans with a little bit tighter coordination than we have would be able to use the Ragnar to devastating effect, just like we saw in King of the Sea. I wholeheartedly recommend the Ragnar to anybody who's a destroyer player, as long as you like gunboy destroyers. This thing is is not very fast. It's not very maneuverable. And so it kind of wallows around in the water unless you're using your speed boost. So it's not a fast run and gun thing. It's not like a Marceau or a Kleber or a Khabarovsk. It is a slow gun boy, but it's so terrifying that it still makes people run away. Now, I did mention its speed boost, and it's worth bringing this up. This is a emergency engine power speed boost consumable, and like the one in the Småland, this boosts your speed not 8% like a normal one, not 20% like the French, but 30%. And I actually have a premium upgrade module, the kind you pay coal for, that makes that duration last longer. So I have over a minute, I think it's like 78 seconds of 30% speed boost. That puts this ship up into around 44 knots. I think it's a little bit slower than that, like 43.8 or 44 knots basically, which is pretty acceptable speed. So if you get into a dangerous pickle, you can always hit that speed boost and get rocketing out of there with just over a minute's worth of speed boost if you upgrade it. Otherwise, it's 60 seconds for the duration, which is still pretty good to get you out of a jam, but I love going fast. So again, I wholeheartedly recommend getting a speed boost module on there. The other coal module you could choose to put on there instead would be the one that extends your radar duration. I kind of like that one, but I'd like it more if the radar had a larger distance that it covered. 7.5 kilometers isn't very long, and I feel like I either won the fight and killed the guy in the duration of the radar, which I can't remember offhand right now, otherwise I'd tell you about it, or I didn't, and I want to get out of there because it's dangerous. So, in your mileage may vary. You may find that the radar module is better for you, and if so, hook it up and tell me why in the comments, and it might just be like, I'm a better shot than you, Clyde. I need more time to kill stuff. It's okay. But yeah, I think the Ragnar is a really strong ship. It's tons of fun to play, and it's really capable. Now, the last ship we want to talk about tonight is today, this afternoon, this morning, whatever time it is when you're watching this, is the Plymouth. Now, the Plymouth is a steel ship that came out and got kind of a bad rap, but I think the Plymouth is a really, really good ship. I've played this boat about 35 or 40 times now. My win rate in it is 4 or 5% better than my overall win. Well, 2 or 3% better than my overall win rate. And I'm having a really great time in it. What the Plymouth is it's essentially like the Tier 7 Belfast, but at Tier 10 and with torpedoes. It has smoke, it has acoustics, it has radar, and it has hull repair, and it has torpedoes. This boat is actually a lot of fun, but it is very, very squishy. If you are the kind of player that can't find a good position for these British light cruisers, this isn't going to be a boat for you. If you can't avoid taking damage, if you have to tank the damage by being in a tough, strong ship, then this boat is going to be very unfun, and I encourage you not to get it. If you're comfortable learning how to find a good hiding spot and use your island and navigate back and forth and dish up horrific damage while you do it, you're going to have a ton of fun in the Plymouth, but I will tell you, it takes a little getting used to. It's not quite the same as the regular British lights, and I can't tell you why. Maybe it's because I'm trying to get into a position where I can use that radar, which isn't very long distance. I think it's a 9-kilometer radar, but double check me on that. And I think it's a strong ship for people who are willing to deal with its frailty. If you're not willing to deal with that, do not buy it. Don't spend the steel. You'll be disappointed. But if you're willing to step up to the challenge, I think you'll dig it. I think Minotaur captains would like this ship. I think people who really enjoyed the Edinburgh would like this ship. People who played the Belfasts would like this ship. I joke that this is part of a unwritten British light cruiser split that goes Belfast 43, there's a missing ship at Tier 9, and then finally Plymouth at Tier 10. I wonder what they're going to slide in that missing ship slot. Oof, boy, words are hard. Anyway, I think this ship is a lot of fun. It's 27,000 coal, same price as the Ragnar, but if you use the coupon, 20,250, which makes it a pretty good bargain. Let's go take a look at it in port. This boat has 4 turrets, 1, 2 in the back, 1, 2 up front, each having 4 barrels. And those barrels shoot AP only, and the AP shells do a maximum damage of 3,100. The velocity is 841, not 808 like some of the slow American shells, not 900, 950 like the Russian shells. However, they are pretty darn comfortable because you can shoot up over islands, and that's what you're going to want with this ship anyway. You're going to be hugging up against an island and trying to get the best out of those. Because you can put 8 shells out of the front and 8 shells out of the back, it's kind of Smolensk-like, except for Smolensk doesn't have radar, and it doesn't have as many hit points, I don't think. This thing has 40,000 hit points, which is, I think, 9 or 10,000 more than Smolensk, which is pretty great. Secondary armament fires 7.3, and I have used the secondaries on this boat because sometimes you get surprised. However, hopefully you don't use those very often because you've got a combination of acoustics and radar, which is going to help keep your situational awareness up so that you can avoid taking the damage. Remember, Plymouth is not a tanky boy. It's trying to avoid the damage, not take it. And so, again, you've got to play it that way. The alternative camo on this one is a green camo, where this is lighter, kind of an olive drab color, and this is a darker green. I think it was on screen earlier in the video, and I don't remember which camo I had on it, but it's a good looking ship. And again, I think Plymouth is fun. I don't think it's for everyone, but I think if you're up for the challenge, you are going to be able to be very effective in this ship. If you spend some time and let the ship tell you how it needs to be played, don't try to play it like a, like a Petro or something like that. Obviously, that would be insane. And that is the last of the steel ships. Guys, I hope that this video was entertaining and useful, and you learned something about how to earn steel, or maybe something about the ships that you're going to spend steel on. If you like this video, please send it to a friend. I really appreciate any of the support that we can get on the channel. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers, which was like a huge accomplishment. We've been trying to get to that number for a long time, so thank you so much for subscribing and being a part of the Clyde Plays community. We will see you out there in our next battle, and until then, please take care of each other and have a great time. Take it easy, guys.